Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Jerry Rig Podcast. We got an awesome guest today. And if you've been out there beating the pavement and just trying to find a job, especially in this Salesforce ecosystem, you're going to love this guy because he's going to really give you some insight on what's happening amongst job descriptions and job postings, as well as what the recruiters are doing. He is a Salesforce recruiter, and he's one of the baddest dudes here in the United States when it comes to Salesforce recruiting. So I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to put him on the spot, and we're going to ask him some hard questions because, you know, those recruiter guys, they're a little wily. So we want to put him on the spot. So stick around. We're going to be right back.
Yeah.
This is the Jerry Rigged Podcast, your no-nonsense knowledge base for business technology, marketing, and analytics. And now your host, Jerry Surstead.
I got a special guest today out of Dallas, Texas. His name is Khero, and a little bit different name. Took me a little while to kind of get used to it, but he works with a company called Third Republic. And what we're going to do is we're going to put him on the spot. And you know me, I don't beat around the bush. I kind of just get to the point, and we'll ask the hard questions. Khero, what's going on, buddy?
How's it going, Jerry?
Very good.
Nice to see you again.
Yes.
Absolutely pumped to be on the Jerry Rig Podcast. I've seen a lot of good stuff on LinkedIn and feel very honored to be here. So thanks for the invite. No problem. So, Khero, so now what is the correct pronunciation of your name so that everyone knows? You got it. Go with your gut. I'm pretty receptive to any pronunciation these days, but it's Khero Whitey.
Khero Whitey.
Yeah. Right. So my mum's from the UK, hence the accent, and my dad's from the Middle East, so it's an Arabic name. So best of both worlds, I like to think. West meets Middle East.
Yes, that's cool. So tell me, where did you grow up? Are you from the UK or were you born and raised here in the United States?
I spent 25 good years in the UK. So I grew up in the northeast of England, a small town that nobody would have heard of called Grimsby, circa 100,000 people, old World War II fishing port, kind of on the decline ever since. Behind the curve from a tech standpoint, kind of run of the mill 9 till 5, marry young kind of town, right? Those that were maybe fortunate enough got out and escaped into the bigger cities, the Sheffields, the Manchesters, and in my case, I went all the way to the capital down south in London, which is where it all began from a recruitment standpoint.
That's cool. That's cool. So what brought you to Dallas and how long have you lived there?
I mean, we could make a podcast about that in itself, Jerry, with that question. But yeah, no. So I spent 3.5 years in the UK supporting C-suite professionals and their change transformation initiatives through the provision of talent, right? So it's interesting. We were talking offline with your new role in the non-profit space. And that was all I focused on for 3.5 years, working with some of the biggest charities in the UK, Cancer Research, British Red Cross, et cetera, et cetera. Save the Children was another good one. And basically partnering with C-suite execs to help them find business analysis, project and program management, trainers, individuals that would really kind of challenge driving change and user adoption within an organization. That opportunity led me to a move stateside across the pond with Third Republic. I spent 3.5 years in our New York office, really kind of growing out our contracts business, which is maybe how we first met, right? And supporting, customers with their needs for staff org, be it short-term, part-time, or be it the traditional kind of 40-hour a week, 12-month contracts, right? did that for 3.5 years. You know, we ran lean. We had a small team, and we I think at our peak we got around 150 contractors out across 50 plus different clients across the US. So no mean feat. You know, for those that are in the staffing side, that's, you know, pretty decent accomplishment. And then you know, with Dallas, I kind of saw even before the pandemic, Jerry, more and more businesses were moving and creating satellite hubs in Texas. More and more individuals that I were working with, Salesforce admins, developers, architects, were moving to Texas. Austin in particular was hot around 2019, 2020. And the thing I liked about Dallas was the variety of businesses, right? Houston, it's associated with oil and gas, a bit of healthcare.
Right.
You associate it with software development, right? SaaS companies, startups. With Dallas, you've got everything. You've got retail, you've got financial services, insurance, healthcare. So for me, I think Dallas is a city that's thriving. It's part of Texas, which is obviously, you know, you will see online how it's, I think, the 8th largest economy in the world in itself, right? You know, it's a great place to be from a business perspective, but also just from you know, the people are fantastic as well. So that's how I ended up in Dallas. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've always appreciated about Khero is I've always liked people that are passionate about what they do. You know, some people in some of these spaces feel like opportunists. You know, they're jumping over here because all of a sudden now that's hot, and then they jump over here because that's hot. Khero is one of the few, probably, and now mind you, I spent 4 months, did over 60 job interviews.
Wow.
Talked to well over 100 recruiters, and I got a real good feel for recruiting and the different flavors of recruiters. Khero's, I believe, one of the only guys that I know that actually has Salesforce certifications. And I just think that's cool. I mean, when it comes to Salesforce recruiting in Dallas, I can't help but think that Khero just like owns that market.
I try my best.
But I mean, you're so plugged in. You're putting on events. You work with the users group. Do you manage that users group?
I co-organize the North Dallas Salesforce user group.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got Salesforce events going on all the time, and he's just really, really plugged in. When it comes to Dallas and Salesforce, Khero is right in the mix. So that's cool. Like you're not an opportunist. You dive deep, you go deep, and you become part of the ecosystem. So
appreciate it. I appreciate it. And maybe that's where the kindness ends. I know you promised the audience some tough questions, right? So you know, I love you, man.
I got some.
Thanks.
All right, let's do a little quick warm up. We're gonna do and I didn't tell you about this, but we're gonna do it anyway. I'm going to call it the Salesforce Rapid Fire. Basically, what's happening? You're a recruiter. You're in the Salesforce space. I'm just going to throw some terms out there, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your head, whatever it is.
Okay.
So, 2 words: remote or on-site?
On-site.
On-site. That's where it's at, huh?
Yeah, on-site's where it's at. I think. Look, there's a lot of posting, right? I think it's a topic where I think individuals feel very passionate about. I will say, right? You tend to be one or the other in terms of where your gut lies. I think, and I actually have a post scheduled later in the week around this topic. I think it depends on the individual. I think it depends on how self-disciplined you are around remote working. I think it depends on where you are, right? You know, I would not want to work remote in New York City in a 1-bedroom apartment that I'm paying for with another individual, you know, with my fiance, soon to be wife. You know, I wouldn't want to be 2 of us on video calls in a 1-bedroom apartment 5 days.
Right, exactly.
Right? But I think ultimately, I've as I've got older, I've become to realize everything in life is balance. And I think, when it comes to remote versus on-site, hybrid is the perfect best of both worlds. Couple days a week in the office, the employer's happy, the employee, if you're looking for a job, just accept it, right?
Yes.
It's a different market today. You can't, I only want 100% remote. You might be looking a bit longer because the competition's at an all-time high. So
hybrid doesn't bother me. I mean, there was a job that I turned down here in Phoenix. It was 100% on site. It was about a 40-minute drive into work, not including traffic. And I just did not want to do that Monday through Friday. But had they said, hey, can you come in Monday and Friday or, Tuesday and Wednesday of every week, that I probably would have done.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up with a fully remote position, which I like, but there is a negative side to it because throughout the day, I'm pacing throughout our house here, and I'm running up to the grocery store just to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there goes my Mac.
I think giving you credit, giving you a pat on the back, but I think that is always the flip side of the coin, right? Productivity, and I think individual productivity is different to business productivity, and I think for a lot of businesses with the pandemic, when it first went remote, most of us hadn't worked remote for like that, right?
Right.
Maybe in tech you might have, but I'm talking about broader the world, right?
Nobody knew what to do. They were lost.
Right. There's no blueprint on how to manage a business remotely, right? Overnight in most cases. There was a big hype around it. People were excited by it. Oh, I'm going to work super hard to make sure I can be trusted to work remote because I would like to stay a couple of days remote post-pandemic. Yes. So productivity went through the roof because people were desperate to show that it could work. 3 years on, I'm not so sure people are killing themselves working, that hard like they were at the beginning of the pandemic, right?
Well, one of the things, Khero, that I noticed was some of these remote workers are currently shooting themselves in the foot because they're getting lazy. So, I might set up a meet and greet with another person on the team and they don't even turn their camera on.
Right.
I'm like, come on, man.
Can't be bothered to change today or it's, I just think as like human beings, we were not programmed. We're not a robot. We're not programmed to sit at home in our confinement of four walls Monday to Friday. And there was a stat that came out and said it was around 30% of layoffs were remote workers, right? And there are stats and surveys around how a hybrid on-site worker is more likely to get promoted than a remote worker. So I
saw that.
You saw that one?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're now starting to see these kind of takeaways. But again, I think it's about balance, Jerry. I don't think, necessarily 5 days a week on site's the answer, but never going to an office in 3 years, I'm not quite sure that's the answer either, right? So
no, I used to be an entrepreneur and I've had plenty of employees over the years, and there's something to be said for everybody in the same room. You can really collaborate. You can get things done pretty fast, even on your Zoom or Teams calls with a large team. There's something that's always kind of missing. You can't really put your finger on it, but there's something always kind of missing.
It's not the same, and it never.
Yeah, it's not the same.
And I think just to wrap up that question, it could be, like I said, it could be a topic in itself. But I think in terms of loyalty and tenure rates and things like that, I think they're generally higher if you have a connection with the company and your manager, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. No, I totally agree. When I read that article, it was no shock to me. I'm like, yeah, of course. Because there's a lot of things with human nature, as we know, that is hard to nail down. It is what it is. So after admin, so I go out and I get my administrator certification. I know part of it's going to depend on, where my motivation lies and where maybe my previous skills lies. But after I get that first admin cert, what's the next cert I should get to really kind of help make a well-rounded Salesforce?
I think for me, that's a very easy answer. It's the business analyst certification. And I will tell you a couple of reasons why, Jerry. One, I think it's the most versatile certification out of the whole 40 plus certifications out there, right? Business analysis you can use inside and outside Salesforce. You will learn things on that certification test that are transferable to being a business analyst on a SAP program, right?
Yes.
So the versatileness of the certification makes it highly attractive. The second reason is I believe that's where most implementations go wrong. It's a lack of the requirement gathering at the very start of that kind of discovery phase.
Yes.
They weren't hit correctly on maybe the business didn't understand exactly what was possible or had realistic expectations or even knew what they wanted in the first place. And maybe the partner or the individual, employee of that business didn't ask the tough questions.
Yes.
To truly understand what they need. So I think for those two reasons, the BA cert should be high on the list.
Well, I'm going to back that up, and here's why. So I have a background in marketing, background in technology, CRM platforms, from HubSpot to Salesforce to a bunch of stuff. And so 4 or 5 months ago, I was trying to which direction should I head down? And, I like marketing, but I love business analysis. And I started going down the business analysis route for that very reason, because it's so versatile. But here's what I found. There is a huge demand for Salesforce BAs, regular IT BAs. To this day, I went in and I turned off all of my LinkedIn, Indeed, Dice, all of them platforms turned off. And a month later, I am still getting pounded.
Wow. 5
to 7 emails a day wanting me to interview, and 3 to 5 just direct phone calls every single day. I mean, to the point of annoyance. And so I'm like, man, there's a lot. In every single one of them is Salesforce admin / BA, business analyst, Salesforce business analyst, every single one of them. And I just had no idea that there was that many organizations looking for that role. Yeah. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I see the same. I think selfishly, that's another reason why I should take the cert, right? Because it's going to increase your chances of securing a new role.
Yes.
And I think the BA role can be, not always, but it can be less technical as well, right? So,
yep.
I couldn't make it as a Salesforce admin. I just don't I get the concepts of being a Salesforce admin. Of course, I've placed 200, 300 Salesforce admins in my career, but me doing a Salesforce admin job on a daily basis, it's not my personality, right?
Yes.
I prefer talking to Salesforce admins and finding jobs. So I think the BA is, you need to know enough about the administration side to be dangerous, to understand it, but you're not necessarily building the flows yourself. Or some organizations you are, like the post you talk about, Jerry, where it might be an end user, you're an admin BA. We'll call that a badmin. Let's coin a term. The badmin.
Oh, I like that. Badmin. Yeah.
But in a bigger business, if you're working for an enterprise organization, the chances are you're a BA and that's all you're doing. So it's kind of a nice in-between role between being on technical projects, but not necessarily having to know how to create a custom object or a flow from scratch, right? So it could be a happy medium between the two channels.
Yeah, flows.
Yeah.
Mind blown. I've been running marketing automation forever, and I started getting into flows, and I'm just like, what in the heck is this?
It's like a new language, right? You got to learn Spanish overnight or something, right?
Right, exactly. And I also noticed that if you want to go deep into Marketing Cloud, I mean, you're going to have to be kind of a marketer / developer at some level. I mean, it's just so deep. Last one on the rapid fire. If you're going to go down a road and your choice, let's say you got to pick one or the other, is make a killer resume and just apply on LinkedIn on job postings, or make a killer LinkedIn profile and rely on recruiters to be attracted? Which one of those would you pick?
I'd pick the latter. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a recruiter, but I think, LinkedIn from a visibility, I'll have clients that still want to see resumes, but good clients where I have a relationship with, I'll just send them a LinkedIn profile and there's that trust there. If it's a good LinkedIn profile, that is suffice to get an interview. You don't need to cover letters. You do if you're applying direct. You need to do everything. You need a thesis resume, right? Just to get your foot through the door.
Yes.
But I think having an optimized LinkedIn profile with recommendations from former managers, up to date, your certifications on there, content. I think that you can even have a link to your resume on your LinkedIn profile, right?
Sure.
But I think, look, recruiters are incentivized to make sure they can find you a job, right?
Yes.
That's how we make a living. So who's gonna bat for you more? A recruiter who's dependent on placing you to make an income versus a business that may or may not need to hire you anyway, right?
Right. Well, and that comports exactly. I actually just kind of, because I was getting bored, I was holding some how to get a Salesforce job classes on Zoom through LinkedIn. And it was kind of fun. I enjoyed it. But one of the things that I was explaining to everybody, because they're asking like, well, should I apply for jobs? Should I call recruiters? And so one of the things I would say was, okay, look, if your specific resume is customized for that job and your resume is tweaked to the point where 90% of the keywords are matching the job description, you have a prayer of not getting booted right from the beginning from the ATS system.
Right.
But if you get your LinkedIn profile firing on all 8 cylinders and you're involved on LinkedIn, you're writing articles, you're connecting with people, this is like you're building a house, and that house is going to keep delivering for you, and recruiters are going to notice it. And most of them, I would say, hey, look, get your profile on Dice, get your profile on Indeed, and then get your LinkedIn profile just banging. And then recruiters, the beautiful thing that I loved about recruiters is I would tell people, you don't have to go through ATS. Like, the recruiters kind of like the ATS. And if some of these guys go out to lunch on a regular basis with some of these hiring managers. So if the recruiter believes in you, he's thinking, A, I'm taking care of my client. B, I can make my living. I can get a commission off of this. He's going to set your resume past everybody else and stick it right on the desk of the hiring manager. Yeah. And I said, there's nothing better than that.
Right. I think at the end of the day, I think, I'm fortunate enough that I've got clients that are, friends outside of work, right? These are relationships that I've taken years to build and are organic relationships. And I think there are different types of recruiters and there are different types of recruitment companies and there are different types of recruitment ideologies, philosophies, etc. And it's not, here's the thing, it's not always the recruiter's fault. Like, sometimes there's, what we call like kind of MSP recruitment agencies where they're signed up to a big enterprise business and they recruit every role from a Salesforce admin all the way to a receptionist, right?
Right. Yes.
And they are keyword searching. They don't know anything better because it's KPI to, you got to send out 8, 9, 10 resumes to this client within this time period. And that's not the recruiter's fault. That's just the environment they're in.
What about these recruiters that are just pounding the phones? They're typically out of New Jersey. And
that's not me.
My phone rings off the dang hook.
Yeah.
They're not focusing on anything. They're just, it feels like their KPIs and their boss is going 100 phone calls a day, I don't care who you talk to. You got to make 100 phone calls a day.
It's very short-minded view, right? I think it's you know, I would much rather my team make 10 calls a day, but have output at the end of it, which is 2-3 profiles sent to a customer, right?
Sure.
You know, and I think the piece around LinkedIn in particular, we kind of digressed a little bit, but the thing about LinkedIn is I think a lot of people's mindset and association with LinkedIn is, oh, I'll just use it when I'm looking for a job, right? And they expect it to just work. No. You wouldn't if you were single in a relationship, you know, you just broke up in a relationship, you download an app, you wouldn't instantly have 100 connections with messages. Hey, do you want to go out on a date? You've got to put some time into it. You've got to put some effort to meet people. How are you? You okay? You know, I love what you posted on this. Congratulations on your cert. I had someone yesterday, I won't mention her name, but she's a lovely lady. She reached out to me, you know, she's in Florida, I'm in Dallas. You know, I was honest. I said, look, you know, I tend to work with Texas-based businesses placing local candidates. I probably don't have anything for you. You know, she congratulated me on my certification. It was personalized, right? Rather than got any jobs for me? I'm interested in this job. Right. You know, the context. So, you know, she said, look, could I have some time, you know, from you? I'm thinking in the short term, I'm thinking like my time's precious. I'm never going to place you anyway. So what's the ROI in it for me, kind of thing, right? But I thought, you know what? If you can do this time, I'm driving to a client meeting at 5 p.m. on a Friday. I will speak to you, right? And I had a great conversation for 15 minutes, all because she asked nicely and she gave me a compliment. And I would like to think that was a valuable call for her as much as it was for me. So,
well, some people think that this whole personalized thing, this human thing, is going away and AI is going to take over the world. No, you know, humans have been on this earth for thousands of years, and there's just some things you're never going to replace. I think a piece of paper and a pencil is never going to go away. It's always going to have its place, right? So back to what you were saying about LinkedIn, I think that LinkedIn should be part of your business life. Mm-hmm. You know, it should be a partner.
They should teach it in school.
Yes, it should be part of that process, because when you build it over time, you go to a LinkedIn profile and there's no headshot, there's no profile banner, there's very little information. And then I'd look at it and go, how does this guy got 300 followers? I mean, how is that even possible? Like, he doesn't, in my eyes, he doesn't even exist. Then you go to another one and it's very robust. It's very mature. There's lots of stuff, lots of content, articles and videos and certifications. That's when you feel comfortable. You go, I want to work with this person. They're cool. And then when you write art, and this is a piece that I learned when I was in radio in Seattle, you become bigger than life. When you write articles and people see you all the time, now the hiring managers, they don't just think, oh, maybe I should interview him because we have a position. They're thinking, I got to get this person on my team because they rock and roll. They're a professor of Salesforce.
Absolutely.
They're teaching other people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And I think it's LinkedIn is a free walking advertisement of yourself.
It's free. It's free. Like, what the heck? It's free. You don't have to spend a nickel.
Why would you spend, hundreds of dollars on resume writing, people who will do just take the time, read a few, watch a few videos, see a few posts. There's so much you can achieve with LinkedIn. And I think, it should definitely be taught at school. LinkedIn and sales in general should be on the school, subject list.
Yes.
But I marketing, etc., how to market yourself and all that good stuff. But I think it's a platform that is still, especially outside of the tech world, right? Is still underlooked and underutilized. I have people that will respond back to a message from a year ago. Oh, is this role still open? What do you think is it still open from a year ago? Are you stupid? Like,
right.
I'm interested in what, bro? Like, I probably, most recruiters who's left our business in a year's time, let alone that one job, right?
Don't you
know,
see postings and it'll say, hey, we're looking for a Salesforce business analyst. And then some guy will put in a post that says, interested. Do you think that hiring manager is going to go through 100 listings and track you down to see, like, come on. What do you
and they're just not relevant to the audience, right? And funny enough, like, you mentioned about, the rapid fire, applying to a job versus working with a recruiter. Actually, a lot of the roles that we work as a business, they've advertised on LinkedIn. They've advertised for months on LinkedIn. They either can't find someone, or they can't be bothered to go through the 500-600 applicants, or they just don't, or I should say they don't have the time because they have the day job. Recruitment for a hiring manager is often 1% of their day job, right? They've still got projects to do. Yeah, they've still got stakeholders to be accountable to. And I think it's a lot of time weeding between those who are just not relevant at all, or don't even have the right to work in the US, or are a Salesforce admin, but they're junior, got no experience, and they're applying for a senior admin role. Like, you ain't going to get it. So don't waste the time. Invest that time actually benefiting your chances by making connections at local user groups, or reaching out to it won't take long to find who are the top 10 Salesforce staffing firms in the US, right? And try and build a relationship with someone.
Well, and what's so funny is when I look at how competitive it's like, well, they have a job posting and they have like 800 applicants. And I always say, here's the deal. If you do what you need to do and you take the steps and you put in the work, you can bet your bottom dollar the other 9 people out of the 10 are not doing that.
Right.
Because I have given people roadmaps. Okay, step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. Step 3, do this. And they just don't do it. They don't want to do it. They don't have the time to do it. Either that or their mom and dad is giving them money, so they don't really need to do it. So it blows my mind. Like, stop asking me, because I don't want to help you.
Yeah, I've had that a lot. I'm looking for advice. You give advice and you look back on their profile a week later and they've not done any of the things that you suggested. So you're just wasting my time, At the end of the day, and I hate to say it, I'm the one in a job. You're not. Like, I speak to hundreds of clients on a daily basis, hundreds of candidates, right?
Right.
Surely my advice, you asking for it, is worth something. I want to get more visibility on my LinkedIn profile. Okay, well, here's what you need to do. If you don't,
they're not going to do it.
Don't
like
ask
most times out of 10, they don't do it.
It is refreshing when someone does reach out and says, you know what, thanks for your advice. I put a profile picture, or I updated my current job, and I'm starting to get traction. So the 10 times that nobody does it, one person will, to give them credit. And it's nice, to see, okay, I'm not wasting my time completely, right?
Yes. That gives you like inner satisfaction.
Right.
Personally.
Right.
Okay. So, we'll have to wrap up the show here in a couple of minutes. There's a couple of subjects I wanted to touch on with regards to LinkedIn. And so, we're going to dive into the negativity a little bit, because it's just LinkedIn. There's folks on there that are supposedly looking for jobs. They get laid off. And now this is just some folks. They'll get laid off on Monday, and by Tuesday, they've written this long diatribe posting about how the world sucks, recruiters suck, their last manager sucks, they don't have enough money for Christmas presents, and blah, 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 blah. And my usual first post is, well, if you're really looking for a job, if you truly want to transition into a new role, your first step is to delete this post.
I mean, probably a wise idea. Yeah, look, I think life is different for everyone, right? And I do think there are failures in the school system, and the negativities of social media and building this buy now, pay it off later type of mindset. I was always brought up, if you can't afford it, you don't get it, right? You don't put it on plastic on credit card, So I think people and their finances in general, the majority of the public don't manage too well with that. But you should always have a rainy day fund, right? You should always be preparing to be out of a job for 3 months. You should always have that runway, right?
Hero's a smart guy. I like Khero.
you should, right? Because especially in this market, you never know if you're going to get that dreaded 9 o'clock meeting on your calendar with HR and your manager. Sorry, Jerry, we got to let you go, right? And that's not going to slow down anytime soon. The layoffs, right? Because corporate America, they're squeezing to satisfy shareholders, right? And looking to get rid of any cost that is not generating an ROI. So there's going to be more layoffs, but it's not all doom and gloom.
What is your general thought about people posting, woe is me, boo-hoo postings on LinkedIn?
I think if I'm an employer and I'm looking to hire someone, am I gonna interview someone who's being negative and that's on a social media forum, right? Being that negative, what are they going to be like when I have them in my team and we're backs against the wall and we got to go live to go and sorry, Jerry, I need you on the weekend. Well, this ain't fair, life ain't fair, blah, 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 all this. I'm probably not going to hire that person, right? Because before I even met that person, I'm thinking, they like to moan. They like to complain, right? Right. Life ain't fair. It's just reality, right? It's fairer to other people than it is others, right? That's the way it's always going to be. But if you're going to complain so publicly and be moody, instead channel that energy into the solution, right? Take that pain and sadness and frustration and channel it to positivity.
Well, everyone has depressing and stressful times in their life. When I was out there beating the pavement looking for work, I had some, a couple of dark days where I'm like, oh my God, is this ever going to get any better? Yeah. But trying to find your perfect role is like eating an elephant. You got to do it one bite at a time. And if you need that comfort, that personal connection for someone to listen to what you're going through, talk to your mom, talk to Dr. Phil, talk to anybody in the world except posting on LinkedIn.
Right. And I think, look, if you're going to go down that avenue, call people out, tag them then and see what response you get, right? Don't like half-ass it. If you're going to go out and you decide, right, I'm going to criticize this company, my old boss, tag them all. Go for it, right?
Burn that bridge. Just burn it.
You burned it anyway. So actually fulfill it properly. Do something 100% in. You're either all in or you're not, right? Either don't post it or post it and go all out, right? But joking aside, it's look, life's tough, and I think we could say this shit happens, right? And you've always got to have a plan B. You've always got to be upskilling yourself, investing in certifications, just in case you get fired, right, or laid off, right? You've always got to be networking on LinkedIn. There's actions that you can take that will at least mitigate the disaster of being laid off unexpectedly.
Yes.
Give yourself a comfort blanket.
Yeah, well, having 6 months in savings,
right?
6 months worth of living expenses in savings is a really smart move. It reduces that stress, gives you 6 months to get out there and get back on the horse, so to speak. And hey, LinkedIn, we talked about LinkedIn being free. LinkedIn is free. In my view, there's no other community, there's no other public square that is as strong as LinkedIn when it comes to recruiting and job search. I mean, everybody is there.
Yeah.
And
I think,
so if you're,
to your point, Jerry, I mean, we don't have access to job boards, right? At the Republic, we don't have, we're not finding candidates from job boards. Put it that way. It's all LinkedIn.
Wow.
We don't use job boards. We never have. In my 5.5 years in the US, we've never used one single job board to find talent.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good information. Well, I think we're getting near the end here. I was just trying to think if there was, Oh, the last one on the LinkedIn that I see all the time, which kind of drives me nuts, is, oh my God, the entire hiring system, the employment system, the job seeking, the hiring manager, the entire system is broken.
Yeah, it's look, I don't think it's broken. It's worked for hundreds of years, right? A company needs help of someone else. There's usually a connector in the middle that joins the dots, right? It's been the way for years. It still works. I think just with social media, you're able to see the times that it doesn't more easily. It was the same system that was 30 years ago, right? So I don't think it's right. So I don't think it's broken per se. I think there's always areas for improvement in any process, right? In any business model. And I was having a slice of pizza last night with an individual, and we were talking about the exact same topic. And, I was kind of giving him some insight that, the term ghosting gets thrown about, and it's usually about recruiters. Man, if I had $1 for every time I got ghosted by a candidate, I would have retired by now. But you don't see me bitching and posting about it on LinkedIn, right?
Right.
No show for interviews, even though I've met them, looked them in the eye, they've asked me to help them to find their job. I get them an interview, it's 9:00, ready for their interview, they don't turn up, and I can't get hold of them for weeks later.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
I've had people text me on a Sunday before the Monday they're about to start the new job. Sorry, I got to take another offer. Like, what? Like, but so ghosting, or I've had candidates where I've got them an interview and then 3 months later they show up, I'm ready to start looking again. I'm like, we agreed you were ready to start looking. That's why I submitted your profile to my customer, which is damaging my brand and my name when you don't show up, you don't respond. You can turn down an offer, right? That's not. Of course you can. That's like, that's fair, but give some heads up that you're even considering another offer, right? Don't leave.
Well, did you see the posting on LinkedIn with the recruiter that said that he got this girl a job, and she got into the job, and then she got another offer, and rather than giving anybody, the employer, the recruiter, a heads up, hey, I got another role, I'm going to start next week, she literally just did not show up for work.
You know what that is? Scumbag. They're a scumbag. Look, and
I totally agree.
What happens when they get laid off without any warning, with no notice, no severance? It's blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I know.
Then,
but everyone was piling on, and they were sympathizing with her, going, well, that's the way the work world is today. That company would do the same thing to you. I'm like, no. It's, you're comparing apples to oranges. When you just don't show up, an employee, an employer, the same difference would be like you show up to get in the building and you can't get in the building, and they won't talk to you. They won't tell you why. They won't even tell you that you're fired.
Right.
That's ghosting.
Yeah.
And what she did was ghosting. I mean, hey, maybe I'm old school, but there is zero excuse for ghosting. Zero.
Agreed.
There's always an excuse to say I got a different job offer and it's more money, but there's never an excuse to just not show up.
Agreed. I like that. Not show up. I think, again, it goes back to basic life principles. Treat people how you would like to be treated. The other thing that's sad about these scenarios, right, is that it's taken away from someone else who actually needs that job and wants that job, right?
He's motivated, right?
That is motivated. When you don't show up for an interview, that could have been someone else, and we could have placed that person, and they could not have to spend hours and hours, weeks and weeks on the job search, but you took their slot, right?
Yes.
So I think just do the right thing. Treat people how you would like to be treated.
Well, they, their mom and dad didn't teach them that to have enough kahunas to be able to get on a call and go, guys, I really apologize. I accepted another offer. I really appreciate all the work that you put into me. This is just way better for me, blah, blah, blah. Now they know. That's called having some fortitude, some ethics. But to just not show up, that just That's so like beyond my DNA. I can't wrap my brain around it.
You and me both, Jerry. But maybe another time we will, right? We'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll do this in a year's time.
Let's save it for another podcast. Just talk
Sounds
about
good.
those folks. Well, Khero, I want to thank you so much for coming in and talking about recruiters and giving us some real information. If you were going to leave the folks watching this podcast with maybe like kind of a 1, 2, 3 plan or a 1, 2 plan, and they got an admin cert, let's say, or maybe even a admin BA cert, and now they're just unemployed and they're out there beating the pavement. What's like the top 3 things they should do like right now?
Right now, I think in this market, it's all about trust. There are a lot of fake candidates in the marketplace, people who are not even real people, exaggerating their skill sets. I think be honest and be credible. One of the quickest things you can do to do that is get LinkedIn recommendations to account for the testament of your character. I know Jerry. I've worked with Jerry. He is legit. If he says he's going to turn up, he'll turn up. I might not know how good of a Salesforce admin he is. Let's say it's not me. I know you're a great Salesforce admin, but let's say I don't, right? I don't know. I can't speak to his Salesforce credibility, but as a human being, he's the man, right? Everyone is capable of getting a recommendation like that from someone. That is the first thing you have to be doing. It gives employers and recruiters peace of mind that you're legit, right? So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is you've got to be flexible. This is a market where if you're passively looking, you can be selective. If you're in a job, you can pick and choose and cherry pick the opportunities coming your way. Yes. If you're unemployed, you've been employed for 2, 3, 4 months, you're worried about your financial situation, you're making no progress, it might be time to get back on that car and get back in the office, right? Especially if you're junior in your journey. I think that's the best way to learn. Is by being around others that have got more experience than you, right? Make those short-term sacrifices of being in the office or having to commute half an hour, right? Or taking 10K less. At least you got a job. Everybody knows it's easier to find a job when you're in a job. It's like a unspoken rule. It just is.
That's why I never ever one time had my green ring of I'm available, because I always felt it. Right. To me, it felt desperate. It's like, I have my little button clicked so that recruiters can find me. Like if they're doing searches, it shows that I'm available and I'm looking. But that green ring of like, oh, please hire me, I need a job.
I think it's
and that's just me.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting you say that because from a visibility standpoint, it helps, right? But equally so does open to work. But maybe people don't understand that. I have had clients reject a candidate who looks great fit for a role because they've been out of work for a couple of months. They've got their open to. They've made it so obvious they're out of a job, right? By putting on the green banner. And there was a post at the start of the year which was very controversial on that subject. Do you put it on? Do you not? I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know the answer to everything. I don't know if you should put it on. I don't know if you shouldn't. I would say, like in marketing, for example, you do A/B testing. Try it 1 week on. Try it 1 week. See if you get more traction. Give it a go.
Well, as a recruiter, how many times are you searching on LinkedIn and all you're doing is trying to wade through people that got the green ring?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean, as a recruiter, we have a different license, which is LinkedIn Recruiter, and we put an advanced search with Boolean into that, which includes open to work. I'll usually find people through geography of their location. So that is really important. One of my pet peeves is people who just put United States because they're missing out on so many opportunities, right?
Yes. Right.
Like if I need someone in Dallas and they're in Dallas and actually they would go and hybrid on site, chances are they're at the bottom of the list because they've not listed Dallas as their location, right? So so like there's basic things like that, I think, which all come in, like LinkedIn health check, LinkedIn 101 refresher. That is what I would really advise people to do.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good advice. Very good. Well, hey, now they know. Now all they got to do is do it, right?
That's it. Like Nike.
Just do it. Just be quiet, stop complaining, and do it. And if you do it every day, it'll happen.
Exactly.
It'll happen.
It will.
Well, thanks, Khero. Yeah, exactly. Well, Khero YT from Third Republic, thank you so much for coming into the Jerry Rig podcast. It's nice and refreshing to get some direct information from the horse's mouth, so to speak. The recruiter, and he's not just a recruiter, he is a solid Salesforce guy. And so he really knows. And so if you're out there kind of beating the bushes, you might want to hit him up on LinkedIn, say hi, check in, and if you're in Dallas, I mean, that's always an added bonus, right, Khero?
Always. We have our next North Dallas meetup coming up on the 31st next week. We run them regularly, so come and join us, say hello. Especially Texans in the Salesforce ecosystem. We have a lot of clients in Texas, so always say hi and drop me a message.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks, Khero. I'm going to wrap things up. And remember that if you're trying to get plugged into the ecosystem, live and breathe on LinkedIn, get your certifications, promote yourself, write articles. And I know for some of you folks, maybe that's a little harder. Maybe you're a little bit introverted, but you gotta break out and remember that you have something to offer that nobody else does. Your unique perspective. So until next time on the Jerry Rig podcast, we will talk.
The Jerry Rigged Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or Google. Business technology for CEOs, managers, and business owners. We're here to deliver insights and strategies without the fluff. This is the Jerry Rigged Podcast.